So today I'm going to introduce you to my 10 favorite hitters to pick up in franchise that are really easy to trade for and they're really glitchy. They play above their rating. So of course, if you enjoy the video, thumbs up down below. Subscribe to the channel for new and enjoy the content. And of course, in the comment section, let me know who's your favorite hitters to pick up this year in franchise. My first one is Austin Meadows. Team control for the couple years in the future, and usually when he hits free agency, he's pretty easy to sign around like 10 to 15 mil, which isn't that big of a contract. But the big thing here is he hits. He mashes the ball. He's really, really good, and I just highly recommend him. And the thing is, when I say these are kind of my glitchy players to trade for and why I like picking them up is because they're super easy to trade for. So let's get to the Tigers. We're the Cubs right now. But what you could do here is like just offer like Clint Frazier. You could offer Andrelton Simmons, and then like a deep potential guy. There's Austin Meadows. And this is kind of how all the trades are. You might have to offer 3 C potential players to make the deal happen. But let me tell you, Austin Meadows and these other guys that I'm going to show you are definitely worth it. Sometimes you might not even need 3 players. Sometimes you might need like 1 player and then like a deep potential player to make some of the deals done. They're all super easy to trade for. They're all going to require similar trades like this. And I just trust me, they're really good 99% of the time. Yes, you may have 1 bad egg from time to time, but I'm telling you, just you got to give them a shot. So Meadows in the year 2027 is 92 overall. He's 31 years old and A potential. Like I said, the contract when he becomes a free agent is also super cheap. Look at the numbers he's been putting up over the last few years. Woo. Yes, the OPS was a little low here, but he still hit close to 30 home runs at 85 RBIs. I'm telling you, like for a guy that you can acquire for next to nothing, he's definitely worth it in left field. Joey Bart's my next one, and catchers are super hit and miss. And the reason I went with Joey Bart here is because he actually develops pretty well this year. And I've noticed that in a few different rebuilds and franchise saves that I have. So Joey Bart is super easy to trade for as well, even though he has the A potential. For some reason, catchers are just kind of easy to trade for unless they're like really good. I found Will Smith is kind of hard to trade for this year. He requires quite a bit in return. But for the most part, like you can see, contract is like a lot of team control in the future. And his stats aren't that bad right off the rip. If you give him a couple of years, I'm telling you, he's a really good catcher. So here's Joey Bart in the future. I mean, the fielding's really good. The hitting numbers aren't the greatest. But again, he's about to hit free agency at this point of the year, 2027. And look at the home run numbers. Yeah, the on base percentage is a little bit low. So with the OPS, but like I said, catchers are kind of hard to develop in franchise. For some reason, offensively, they just really don't produce many years. You'll get one that's like good for like 2-3 seasons, and then they kind of fall off, or they just completely don't develop like ever. So Joey Bart is one of those guys that I've seen, you know, kind of around 2024 will start to pop off a little bit. 20 home runs, 30 home runs, the RBIs, the hits, the average starts to jump up a little bit. He's actually one of the better catchers to get. DJ Stewart is a really, really good one to pick up. Like, I'm just telling you, he is. The power versus righties, he is your DH versus righties every day of the week. I mean, he's super easy to trade for. This is a guy you want to pick up, especially if you use the default roster from MLB The Show. I'm pretty sure he's B potential. For the roster that I use, he's got C potential, but the guy's still really good. The guy mashes. He's going to hit you 20 plus home runs every single season. Definitely a DH. And he's really easy. I think you'll need like 1 like C potential guy. Like you'll need a guy that's similar to him in rating. But this guy plays like he's an 80 plus. Like the guy just mashes. Go pick up DJ Stewart. DJ Stewart, like I said, the guy becomes just a crazy DH hitter. Like I said, on the default MLB The Show roster, he's a B potential guy. I've kind of toned him down on the roster that I'm using, but he's also still really, really good. He may not develop as high if you use the roster that I've put in the vault. But if you use the MLB The Show roster, you can see he pops off. And I've even noticed when he has C potential, he still pops off for like 20 plus home runs a year. The guy just mashes righties. And that's what I would recommend doing, being a DH versus righties. Or as you can see, the contact versus lefties even is really high. So yeah, the on base percentage, the average, the slugging, the OPS all look really solid. The guy hits home runs. The guy's just the DH that you're looking for super cheap. Like I said, it's like 5 mil. Look at that contract. That's nothing. Kevin Biggio is another one of those guys that like kind of plays above his rating. Right now, he's a 75 overall because he's a second baseman. But if he's a third baseman, he's probably like a 72, 71. But again, he's one of those that like just you got team control for a couple seasons. He's really easy to trade for, like all these players. But the ratings, he mashes. He's gonna hit you close to like 260, 270, 280. power numbers may not be the greatest, but he's one of those guys that like can place hold until you get like a really crazy prospect to come and take over for him. Or if you just need a guy that can play second base and you want to spend your money in different positions, this guy's super cheap and he's serviceable. He's gonna get the job done. He's not gonna win MVP for you, but he's gonna be very good at second base. So I highly recommend Cavan Biggio. Like I said, if you're just looking for a guy to play second base, he's gonna give you some decent numbers. This is your guy, and then spend your money in other positions. So this is a pretty cheap option. All right, so here's Cavan Biggio in the future. Just hit free agency, it looks like, and as you can see, he got a fairly cheap contract. Attributes look really good. They look solid. I mean, you can't ask for much more. And look at you can see he kind of got benched a little bit, so the numbers are a little bit lower. But when you give him a full year, like that's really good. 30 home runs last year, 23 the year before. The RBIs are nice, the hits are nice, on base percentage, slugging, OPS. Like, can't ask for much more. And like I said, he's super cheap. Can play second base, plays third base. He can be a really solid placeholder for a few years and let you spend money elsewhere. 6-7 mil for a starter that's putting up 30 to mid 20s home runs. That's great value. Another super cheap option, Kyle Lewis, arbitration for the next 3 years, 8 potential, 75 overall. He mashes. And again, I like giving you these players because they're cheap, and that allows you to spend money on pitching or maybe a different outfielder or an infielder, because let me tell you, this guy super cheap and just he's a really good outfielder to get. So go pick up Kyle Lewis. Kyle Lewis is an 86, and I mean, again, what more could you ask for a contract? As you can see, you know, he hits free agency in the 80s plus with A potential, and he's popping off. He's gonna cost you a little bit, but if you trade for him early, you can lock him down pretty cheap. And look at these numbers, the doubles, the home runs, even the triples, double-digit triples. I mean, whew, a 400 on base percentage, a 398, a 1000 OPS. That's a center fielder that you're looking for. And like I said, he's fairly easy to trade for. We're actually going to stay in the Mariners, and this one's kind of my cheesy one because obviously he's going to be very good in the future. Julio Rodriguez. The thing is, he's super easy to trade for right at the beginning of franchise. So if you want to be cheesy, you want to pick up a top prospect, Julio Rodriguez is my kind of like #1 pick. Go and get him because he's really easy to trade for, because he's in center field on the default roster unless they moved him to a corner spot. But like I'm telling you, he is really easy to trade for, and you know he's going to be really good. So go and get him. All right, so Julio Rodriguez, like I said, we know he's going to be good, right? Like that's kind of expected. Didn't really get much time, but when given the time, that's 30 home runs right there, 20 plus doubles, the hits, the RBIs, the numbers are there. The guy knows how to play ball, and he's going to be very good. And in 2027, he's just now hitting free agency. I mean, lock the guy up for a long-term deal. You got a superstar and you're good to go. Get yourself a Julio Rodriguez. Tyler Stevenson is my second like cheap catcher to get. This is probably the more well-polished one between him and Joey Bart. If you're looking for someone that's going to be good right off the rip, you have for I think what 5 years. This is the guy. I mean, he's look at his stats, already really good. Fielding's already really good. He's kind of hitting the prime of his career. You know, 25 in a couple years, he'll be 27. That's like perfect. So I'm telling you, Tyler Stevenson, really solid catching option. Go and get him. If you're going to choose between Bart or Stevenson, I'd probably say Stevenson, but Bart's also a really good option. Tyler Stevenson, 84 overall, and the numbers haven't really jumped up a lot, right? Like he hasn't really popped off that much. Contract, you can kind of see where he's sitting after he hits free agency, but he's just one of those guys that's like consistent. He's not going to go crazy, hit you 30 home runs or anything, but he's going to give you consistency, like high 700s for OPS. And he has been a little quiet. I'm not going to lie. This is probably the worst sim I could have chosen for Tyler Stevenson. But like 2022, look at the numbers. A 360 on base percentage, a 350 is not bad. 360 is not bad. 2025, easily his worst year. But then he bounces back in 2026 and gives you a career year. So yes, he's not going to be the craziest catcher you could ever get, right? But he's going to give you consistency, and it allows you to spend money elsewhere. 12 mil is a little high, but I think he's just a super cheap option. He's a safe option. Like he's never going to be terrible, but he's never going to be the best catcher in the league, right? So this is a super cheap option that's kind of just like safe. You're not going to lose with this trade. So that's kind of why I wanted to show you one where you can see he can give you a 380 on base percentage, but catchers are kind of one of those boomer bust things. And this guy, is one of those safe ones where you don't have to worry about it ever being a bust. Glaber at second base. I'm telling you, the guy mashes. And a lot of the time he ends up getting traded or he's released and is in free agency. So he's always going to be available and he's always really cheap to get. Even if you sign him in free agency, the contract is normally very, very cheap. It's probably like 10 million or less. So Gleyber Torres ends up being one of the best hitters in franchise. And I'm telling you, it's definitely worth the pickup. Gleyber's up to 190. Still super cheap. I mean, that contract is unbelievable. Attributes. Whew. And then let me show you his stats. 30 home runs, 25. And then for some reason wasn't even given a shot this season. But like, you give him the playing time, he's going to be one of the best hitters in the game. I'm telling you, almost a 400 on base percentage, 30 home runs. Yeah, he doesn't have speed. Trust me, he ain't going to steal many bases. He's not going to get many extra base hits. He's going to give you home runs, though. Those are the extra base hits you're going to get with him. And I'm telling you, Gleyber, easy to pick up. Go trade for Gleyber, get you a second baseman for the future. I feel like I've been talking about this player for years now on franchise. Brandon Nimmo, one of my favorite outfielders to get, is just an on-base machine. He's taken a little bit of a nerf this year where he's like he's not as good, but he's still very good. High 300s for on-base percentage. He's still going to hit close to like 20-ish home runs, sometimes even more than that. Always really high average as well. The guy's really good. The guy's super good, especially if you sim a lot. That's kind of where I'm pointing at with these pickups. If you sim a lot, or even if you play a lot of the games, they do play above their rating. Like, these guys are actually really, really good. The swings are good. I think Brandon Nimmo is just one of the best outfielders to pick up in franchise, and he's always solid. So go pick him up, and he's again one of those really cheap options. Brandon Nimmo at 34 years old, and again, like I said, he's gonna give you about 20 home runs. He's gonna give you a lot of doubles. He's gonna give you about 10 triples every once in a while. He'll hit, 5+. And this is the best part about him, the on-base percentage. This was his worst year in 2026 at the age of 33, 34. But prior to that, 400, high 300s. Okay, a bad year in 2022. Did he play a lot? How many games did he get? 137? Okay, so a little bit of a quiet year. I'm not gonna lie. But like, are you willing to have this kind of a leadoff hitter for like one bad year? I'd be down. Even this year isn't the worst, right? Like, those numbers are still good. The doubles, the home runs, the on-base percentage at 350 still isn't terrible. Like, I mean, that's still a pretty solid pickup. And the final one, we're actually going to go to the Brewers. This is probably the most difficult to pick up because of the rating and also the potential. Luis Urias. I mean, the guy can play all across the infield minus first base, and the hitting stats are already really good. But with the potential, they're going to get better. And the contract is so nice. Luis Urias, perfect option for you if you're looking for some sort of middle infielder. The guy can do it. And like I said, he's probably the most difficult to pick up. You're probably going to have to throw in like some sort of B potential guy to get it done. But if you're throwing in 2C guys that are like low 70s or high 60s and then like a little B guy in there, you're good to go. Luis Urias is really solid. Highly recommend him. And finally, Luis Urias. I mean, the attributes, that's plenty to look off of, right? Contract less than 20. That's crazy, right? Less than 20 mil. MLB stats. Look, a 423 on base percentage, another 423 on base percentage. What? Crazy numbers. Yeah, he's a little quiet, but like I said, these guys are never going to be some of the best in the league, but they're going to give you really good, solid numbers. And I mean, you're not necessarily breaking the bank. Less than 20 mil is like, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good contract for a guy that's putting up this. I'm happy with that for sure. These are the kind of numbers. Even this season is still pretty strong. So I highly recommend picking up these guys. Like I said, these are super glitchy. They play above the rating to start out with, and they're gonna improve over time. On top of that, they're really easy to trade for. And I didn't want to be like, yeah, go get Trout, go get Bryce Harper, go get Acuna, right? Like, these are guys that are a little bit more under the radar, and I definitely think they're worth picking up. Like, yeah, they may start to fall off after like 4 seasons because sometimes they are a little bit older, or they've reached their potential after 4 or 5 seasons. But if you can get 4 or 5 seasons out of a player, and then you can let that prospect that you've been kind of nurturing in the farm system take over, it's perfect business right there, especially for these players that you're probably trading away like bench bats for, or underdeveloped prospects. Like I'll trade away 270s with C potential for Brandon Nimmo, who's about to hit 400 for me for the next 3-4 seasons. I would do that any day of the week. So here you go. These are my 10 best hitters that I like, or my 10 hitters I recommend for you. Go check them out. Let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thumbs up if you did. Subscribe if you're new and enjoyed the content. And let me know your favorite hitters to pick up. That's it. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace. Did you enjoy today's video? If you did, I've got another one for you right here. Boom. Right there. Check it out. It's going to be great. Recommend this one.